These guys, it's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Hi, everyone. This is Tim with the Online Big Blue bringing you this, the New York Giants Sports Talking there. Tim, it's Friday, April 8th. We got the draft coming up soon. It's rocketing closer and closer day by day. You can sense it. You can smell it. You can taste it. Can we just get it on and over with? Because I want to get this season underway. I want to get this roster somewhat set before we start thinking about the summer. Thinking about till we reach that point in August where we join the camp and everyone's singing Kumbaya and the Giants are going to win 15 games. Vegas came out and said the Giants are going to win 7 games. They got the Jets at 5.5. That is a very early prediction. That's still 10 losses, but I'm not seeing 7 games right now. I usually rely on the Vegas line, but I think sometimes in Vegas you have to just think about it. You have to just wait and see. And the Vegas line adjusts quite often. So let's see what the Giants do with the draft. Let's see what they do in training camp. Let's see what goes on during the preseason. I want to talk about James Bradberry, Mr. Lockdown himself, the big corner, the big acquisition by the Gettleman. He's in his 6th year in the league, the second round, 62th overall pick, 28 years old. He's the big signing we had. He was the lockdown guy, of course, for Patrick Graham that first season. He lost a step a little bit. 2021. I mean, it could be the fact that it was the lack of the pass rush. It could be just some age. It could be just he had a bad year. That happens. But he is the target trade person right now for the Giants. He's someone that we either need to move on from because of the fact that we need that money for the rookie salary cap. We need some operational cap space. And he's a guy, in my opinion, that James Bradberry, if you look at him, and he's still ranked in the top 10 corners. I believe he's number 2 overall paid cap hit wise in the league for corners. I think he's like 17th in the NFL in reference to corner salary. He's a guy that you thought would be easy to move. He's a guy that you thought that we would be able to be like, we could get at least a second rounder for him. But the cornerback market is kind of dried up. It's turning into the Sahara. Kansas City Chiefs came out and said they're not serious about trading for him. They don't want to take on that $13.4 million in salary. The maneuverability of his contract, I think, is what's going to be his hindrance. And, you gotta think it, case in point, he's a year removed from being a Pro Bowler. He did finish last season with 47 tackles and he intercepted, I believe, 4 passes. He's a significant piece of the secondary because you can keep him still at the CB1. You can keep Adoree Jackson at the CB2. Do you sit there and do you consider moving on from his contract? Not moving on from his contract, but maybe extending his contract into 2023? Well, we have $9 bazillion. No, because I think Shane is smart not to do that. Now, the question is, and question will be, for a player of his caliber, the salary net's pretty high, but the Giants said they're willing to take on some of that salary. Why? Why is there no market for James Bradberry? I'm going to tell you right now, as more and more time goes on, there is going to be less potential for the Giants to move John from James Bradberry. If they do not move on from him via the draft, before the draft, I should say, we're probably going to have to be looking at somehow lowering that salary nut. Maybe we do extend in the 2023 and eat some of that money just so we can get some operational cap space. But I think the biggest issue also is the fact that not only is it his salary, not only is it the fact that he did have a bad season, he's coming off a bad year, there's also some interesting corners in the top in this year's draft. I actually think there's about 10 that I think are quality enough in the top 100 prospects. I would think there's about 10 in my mind that are available in this draft that will be a cheaper option than James Bradberry. And unless you are a serious contender, that's who was probably going to want to take on that James Bradberry salary. But the problem is, if you're not a contender, you're not going to trade James Bradberry to like Jacksonville, even though they have a boatload of money. You're not going to trade James Bradberry to a team that's rebuilding like the Lions, because by the time he's good, it's just not going to be there anymore. So a lot of these guys looking at the draft. You're looking at Ahmad Gardner. I know a lot of people have him listed as their top corner. I still go with Stingley, even with the injuries. He's ideally suited for a press cover guy, which I would want to have. You know what I do like about Gardner is, besides he's handsy. I'm going to tell you that he's handsy. He is Eli Apple handsy, but he's got the mentality and the toughness to be a CB1. And he's also got 33, I think he's 33-inch arms. He's got a long reach, and that's good for a corner. He's got long speed. He's at 4.41. He changes direction well. And he's got the height. He's the big corner. So you got him in the draft. You got Stingley, who came in as a freshman during LSU's title run and has really, excelled. If he would have came out of his freshman year, he would probably been in the top 3. And he's only played 10 total games over the last two seasons. And of course, he wasn't as dominant as he was because of his injuries. Like he's a guy that's a ball hawker. He had 6 INTs, of course, in 19. I believe, talent-wise, he's more talented than Gardner. But like I said, you're gonna have to deal with the injuries, and you do like Gardner's size. You also got Trent McDuffie out of Washington. I love Trent McDuffie, even though he's 5'11", 193 pounds, and he's got this. They worry about his average lack of size and his small arms because he's sub 30-inch arms. But he's an aggressive guy. He's physical as a run supporter. And he really does limit yards after the catch. He's going to be better. He's going to be more, I think he's going to be more fluid and with his short area quickness. So he's going to have that ability to play a little bit better playing in a zone coverage. But you still have the versatility to move him to the outside. Some even may slot him as a safety. This is why I like McDuffie, and this is why I've said this before, but especially for the Giants. He might be able to play safety and corner, and you kind of do a little mixture with Julian Love. You also got Andre Booth out of Clemson. Another guy's a little shorter. I think he's a guy that's he'll be able to fit a few more schemes. He's a good run defender. I didn't know that he was a former 5-star recruit, which, like I said, no, that means nothing when you get into college. And just like if you're the ACC comeback player of the year or top corner of the year or whatever, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. But he's another guy that you get in the draft. And what's his name? Roger McCreary out of Auburn. Another smaller guy. Only 5'11". But he plays with a meanness. He plays like he's got a chip on the shoulder. And like I said, he's another guy who would complain he's got short arms. I'm more worried the fact that how smooth and fluid he is with his hip motion, so he can change direction and coverage. You also got Kylo Gordon out of Washington. A lot of these guys are short guys. A kid out of Florida, I can't remember his name. He's like 6'2". I think he's and his father and his uncle were both safeties in the NFL. Was it Elam? I think it is. I can't remember. He's another guy to look at. He's got 4.39 speed. I remember that. Kylo Gordon. He's another guy that he kind of had a disappointing combine. He only ran a 4.52. But you know what? He's has excellent quickness and has an excellent ability to change directions. He's another guy, in my opinion, that could play in multiple formations, multiple defensive schemes. You got Tyrek Woolen. He was if I remember, he's like 6'4". He converted over from wide receiver. I think he was in 18-19. He had like something like 263 yards and a touchdown. So he's kind of a raw talent guy. But again, it's like Malik Willis. He is a raw talent guy with elite traits. And he ran a fast 40 at 4.26. Second best at the combine. So the problem is you have all these guys. You also have Marcus Jones out of Houston, Martin Emerson out of Mississippi State, Mario Goodrich out of Clemson. You got, what's his name? Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska. And you got the other kid out of Georgia, the senior, Kendrick. You got him as well. So the ability for a team, and especially a contender, to find a corner later in the draft is what we need to look at in reference to even when considering trading James Bradberry. Are you going to get the full value for James Bradberry? If you do not trade him before or during the draft, no. Unless there is an injury somewhere on a contender that needs a corner. You're not going to get the value. Does Deshane pull a Logan Ryan and just ship his ass out because of the fact that, he was part of the other regime? The answer to that is no, also. Because of the fact that you can't eat that cap space because of the fact that you either need the talent or you either need getting some type of asset for him. If you let him go, you're just letting him go. And you're not getting anything back from it. And that's not a smart way to run your draft. And we think Shane has been pretty smart right now with the way he's been doing things. And I think those are the big reasons why that we can that we actually look at this. I think it's funny. I'm talking quickly about Daniel Jones. You got a lot of experts around the league who are basically saying that Daniel Jones isn't the guy again. And this is funny because, like I said, outside of New York, no one else talks about this. But, Marcus Spears came out and says, unfortunately, I don't think so, in reference to Daniel Jones being the man. Spears is also, he used to be a defensive end and he's an analyst for ESPN. It's a tough valuation because he's had so much change in his career, but some of those things you would expect Daniel Jones to fix on his own outside of Austin's court. He just hasn't. He panics. His ability to manage critical situations seems to get him. And in this league, there were so many games are so close. You have to win a number of those close games. Not having the confidence to think that you're going to make the right play in those situations really, really put me out on him. Even you had the guy from Pro Football Focus, who I don't believe in, says, I think he's an okay starter. I honestly haven't changed my mind much since the pre-draft to take Jones. I always felt like if he's in a good situation, in a really good situation, he could have a Nick Foles type run. Now, even Tiki Barber even came out and said, if your guy is not a top 10 guy or top 15 guy, why even keep him? Why even have him? Carl Banks basically came out and said that he likes Daniel Jones, but Carl Banks, I love Carl Banks, but he doesn't a lot of times go against the Giant organization. And I think that's probably right. And Carl says he's been that when he's healthy and when some of the other variables are in place. I don't think it's asking too much for a guy like Daniel Jones to be an above average quarterback. You can expect more from your quarterback, but the reality is there are just a handful of elite players in the league at this point in time. This is what you would expect from Daniel Jones. And he came out and said Jones has been inconsistent. And like I said, I think that's like I said, Carl, he's been critical of the Giants on the broadcasts. He's been critical on the Giants, to a certain point and extent. And I give him all the credit in the world for that, because it's hard to be one of the voice of the Giants with Bob Papa and still be uber critical of your starting quarterback and the guys that you work for. That's why. I understand that, because, like I said, I'm uber critical, and look what I get. look at the crap that I get. And like I said, I'm not being critical. I'm just being honest. And I think Carl, to his benefit and detriment, does that at times. But there are certain situations where he toes the company line. But there's nothing wrong with that. Got the big stream on Sunday. 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. One of these days we may move it up to 10. Gonna have some guests coming on, as always. Got the 2 new podcasts coming up. I may be doing a Mets game in the near future. Was going to do it the other day. I was going to do it for the home opener, but we had a ton of rain. That's why I didn't get to do a video. We didn't have any power again. So we're going to move forward on that as well. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Got the draft coming up. And again, this is Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk entertainment. And as always, if you could maybe subscribe. If you're doing that bell, it means that'd be awesome.